a warm welcome to Joburg Today. I am Nashina Mohammed. Always a pleasure to have you with us. Joburg has a new mayor. Voting finally got underway last night after a disrupted, delayed and tragic session. But the excitement was palpable, the atmosphere electric, with Herman Mashaba promising to live up to the expectations of the electorate of the city.
And the votes cast is as follows. 125 for Mpho Parks Tau and 144
on the election. I hope and trust that you're going to serve this council and the people of this city in a fair and honest manner. Thank you very much and congratulations. My fellow councillors, all of them, our leader, Mr. Mayoral, unfortunately had to leave due to commitments in Cape Town. I also like to pay special tribute and acknowledge the presence of the EFF leadership, Mr. Johannesburg and Mr. Joburg. Thank you very much for what you've done for this country. Our members of Parliament present this evening, members of our provincial legislation, our religious leaders, our business leaders, not forgetting our great municipal manager, Mr. Mpho. Thank you very much for the role that you've played in the last 2 weeks. Not forgetting the role played by an excellent team from the IEC. Thank you very much for making our democracy to be so vibrant. Members of the media who've been with us the last 7 months of hard campaigning, letting people of Johannesburg know what was happening. Thank you very much for your role. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel truly honored to be standing in front of you 7 months after hard campaigning. And I would like you to allow me to postpone my major presentation, my inaugural speech. 2 reasons. Firstly, I'd like to pay our condolences to our fellow councillor who passed away today. In her memory, I would suggest that I postpone my inaugural speech to our first sitting of council on the 13th of September. If you'd allow me to do this, so that we show respect to our fellow comrade, to our fellow councillor, to members of the ANC. Their loss is not your loss. It's a loss to all of us as council. It's a loss to this country. So I'd like to recognize that. Secondly, I think one has to be fair. I know all of us are hard workers, but we've got limits how far we can stretch ourselves. Tomorrow is another day. Maybe not subject to a long speech, but very important. Let me, however, bring this to attention to make a commitment and pledge to people of Johannesburg, residents who voted for us and made this chance possible for all of us. I'm committing under the DLN administration that we're going to bring change. We're going to bring change that is going to create jobs for our people. Over 800,000 of our residents, 1 in 3, are today unemployed. We We need to address this, and we need to address this as a matter of urgency. Our government needs to play a role, not to be the employer, but to create an enabling environment for the private sector to employ our people, particularly small businesses. Small businessmen and women out there, you're going to be my biggest friend. Because I know when you're successful, you will give employment opportunities to our people. When you're successful, you'll pay your taxes. And I can assure you, you're going to run a government that is going to ensure that we look after your money. We will get this money to ensure that we will give dignity to people of Alexandria, people of Zanzibar. People today with no toilets, expected to live in a city regarded as a world-class African city. When people of Alexandria don't have toilets, they don't have running water. This is not fair. This is not what South Africa should be. Let's get this city working again so that we can give our people dignity. Let me make it clear, unapologetically. As of this evening, corruption is declared public enemy number one. Under the DLN administration, public monies that have been spent, misused over the last 5-10 years or so, we're going to take this money, we're going to look after it, so that we can provide basic services to our people. That's a commitment that we made as a DA. And that's a promise that I'm committing to everyone, all our colleagues, all my councillors. I hope you're going to join me in ensuring that we can use public funds in a responsible manner. We can use public funds to provide dignity to our people. We have to create Johannesburg to be the great city that all of us want to live in. So, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to deliver my inaugural speech on the 18th of September in front of all of you. And I will shortly be announcing my Mayoral committee that will be working with me on this journey to ensure that we deliver to the people of this country, people of this city in particular. I'm hoping, if everything goes well, that I can have this by this Wednesday, so that we can hit the ground running. We don't have time on our side. 5 years is not a long time. And we're sitting and facing a massive challenge ahead of us. Speed is of essence. And I want everyone who's going to work with me to understand the importance of time, to understand the importance of public service. I'm so glad that power is back in civil society, and we've got to keep it that way. Thank you very much for listening to me. It's been a tiring day, but a worthwhile day. Can all of us be proud as South Africans to live under this kind of democratic dispensation? Let us all do everything possible to ensure that we protect our constitution so that it can allow generations after us to enjoy the kind of democracy that we saw happening since the 3rd of August. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're not yet done. Will you please take your seats?
Like us on Facebook, joburgtoday.tv, and follow us on Twitter at Joburg Today. Well, finally, at around 10 p.m. last night, we had our moment with Herman Mashaba, and we asked him what he meant when he said, as of now, public enemy number one is corruption. We also asked him to elaborate on the marriage between the DA and the smaller parties with whom it has formed a coalition agreement.
You know, throughout the campaign, I made a commitment to people of Johannesburg that given opportunity to be the mayor of the city, I will immediately declare corruption public enemy number one. I can show people of Johannesburg I'm not going to steal a cent of their money. In fact, I want to go out and protect their money. Protect it, use it to ensure that you can go out there and provide services, basic services to the poor areas of our city. People of Zandspruit, Alexander, Carsons, and so forth. Today in the city of Johannesburg, without toilets, without running water, without electricity. 22 years in our democracy. Is this fair? Absolutely not. 800,000 of our residents, fellow residents, are unemployed today, 1 in 3. We need the money for the city to create an enabling environment, working with the private sector, particularly small businesses, so that we can provide employment opportunities to our people. So I'm excited with this opportunity. I think people of Johannesburg, the voters, can be great of the decision that they've taken, because I think if you look at the ANC government, how it has abused our people over many years, taking our people for granted. So the voters ultimately said enough is enough. So we're no longer prepared to give powers to one government. So the beauty of this, and the difficulty at the same time, but I think I'm excited with this, because every time I take a decision, I've got to consult. Because if I don't consult, I'll never get the go-ahead from the other parties. And for me, because delivery is important, so therefore, I'm forced, whether I like it or not, because that is what the voters have said to me. They said, Herman and DA, every time you take a decision, consult other parties, and I'm committing to that. And that's a commitment that I've made to the coalition parties, regardless of their size. We're going to work with them, we're going to work as partners to ensure that we service our people. If Johannesburg works, South Africa will work. There's just no way that the economy of this country can work if Johannesburg does not work. So for me, Johannesburg is the economic engine of this. It's the heartbeat of South Africa, it's the heartbeat of the whole of our continent. So we need to reignite this so that we can get the economy of South Africa working. And I'll work with the private sector, work with my colleagues to ensure that this happens within the next 5 years of my administration.
Now, to take a look back at a conversation I had with Herman in his home just before elections, when he shared with me his story on why he decided to get involved in politics.
Herman Mashaba is a 56-year-old resident of Johannesburg, living here in Johannesburg for just under 20 years, but born and brought up in a small village called Garamotse Namanskraal. Brought up by domestic worker mother, mainly away from home when I was in my formative years, and really living with my sisters.
What was your vision back then?
Well, the thing is, you know, I grew up as a child under apartheid. As you're aware, you know, HF Verwoerd took over power in this country in 1958, and I was born in 1959. So I was born right in the middle of this architect of apartheid. So life in our village, in our community was really rough. In the mid-60s, the political leadership in this country arrested. A lot of our people started leaving the country to go into exile. So, you know, for me, that's, as I was growing up in my formative years, those are the type of stories one began to hear.
Sure, and how did that impact on your childhood?
Well, quite difficult in the sense that I also at the same time, I lost my father when I was 2 years old. So you can imagine you grew up in an environment where there's no mother, there's no father, because my mother was a domestic worker here in Johannesburg, looking after white children and cleaning white homes. In the meantime, I had no one to really look after. Obviously, my sisters were there and really looked after by the community generally. And you grew up actually being angry and with some kind of confusion as to where you'd one day attain your own personal freedom.
And why are you being rejected?
Yeah, in fact, what happened is grew up actually as a youth thinking that one day I will use education as a vehicle to attain my complete freedom. And yes, I was lucky enough that in 1978 passed my matric and went to University of the North in Sovenga, Petersburg. Then you can imagine a university 300 kilometers away, whereas University of Pretoria only 45 minutes away from my village. But unfortunately, as a black South African, you're not allowed to really go to the so-called white university. So I had to go all the way to University of the North. And yes, unfortunately, my academic dream was shattered second year of my studies, because I thought when I was studying that I was one day going to become a political scientist, because I had registered for a BAdmin majoring in political science and public administration.
Mm-hmm. Who would you say were your early childhood mentors, people that you looked up to, that inspired you?
Unfortunately, in our community, really role models were really very scarce. You really grew up, I look at my life generally, I feel I was actually brought up by nature. Mm-hmm. Yes, I had great people around me, but generally people were defeated by the apartheid system, because it was a very vicious, evil system that took away the dignity of our people. And that's something I grew up fighting, to really make sure that no one should interfere with my own dignity, because that's the only asset that my grandfather used to really tell me when I was growing up, that I must do everything possible to protect it.
Very powerful, very inspiring words, Herman. I suppose the perfect catalyst for personal development and growth are challenges, because that's when you can emerge as a leader. Tell us about your new journey as the DA mayoral candidate.
Well,
what made you go into politics, Herman?
Well, interesting, something that I never thought I would do. I've been a businessman for over 30 years, and a successful one for that matter, fortunately. This country has been really great to me. Coming from my background, being punished at school because my mother could not afford 25 cents school fees, and really become a successful businessman in this country. I really feel blessed. So this country has been good to me. When I started seeing developments crumbling in this country, ever since Jacob Zuma took over the ANC, I felt at the time that I must be an active member of society. I started engagements through just debates and discourse in political circles. As a successful businessman, I've been known over the last few years in this country and respected as a businessman, as an entrepreneur. And I felt I had a duty to really voice my concern with some of the political direction, particularly on the economic front, things that I was not happy with. And that really then creates a spotlight on you. And resulting in after the 2014 general elections, I took membership of the Democratic Alliance, because I voted for the ANC twice in my life, in 1994 and 1999. And since then, I've really been a DA voter. And the reason why I've always I deserted ANC, because I realized that this is not an ANC of Mandela any longer. It's an ANC captured by people with self-interest, people with their own personal agendas. And also at the same time for me, of grave concern was their focus on big government, on government really being the driver of everything in our country. And it's been proven internationally. Where you have big governments thinking that they are ones to run the economy, run the lives of people, such governments always fail. They've been failing for the last 2,000 years. And there was just no way that I would really sit back and watch this country being destroyed by people with personal agendas.
What does personal integrity mean to Herman Mashaba?
More than important. I think for me, honesty, integrity, without it, you're dead as a person. I look at my success in business over the last 30 years. To a large extent, people I've done business with, they've done business with me, and they keep doing business with me because they trust me. Because what you see is what you get. I pray every day of my life, and I work hard towards it to ensure that I don't go around misleading people. I'd rather take hard decisions up front, but there's just no way that anyone can one day hold me for misleading them. And I've done this over 30 years in the business world, which is a great, big ingredient for success. But I think we need to really bring that culture of integrity in the political environment. But at the end of the day, the voters out there should be the ones driving this process. What you do, every 5 years, our constitutional framework is such that every 5 years you vote politicians out. So what you do as society, as the voters, when people don't deliver, when people lie to you, please vote them out the next time around.
It was a big pleasure talking to you. Thank you for sharing your vision with us and for going into such detail.
Thank you very much.
I'm John Terode and you're watching Joburg Today.
And that brings us to the end of the show, but for more coverage on the city, check out our playlist. And that's it from me, Nushina. Have a good one.